Welcome to Breaking to Data, and I'm so glad you decided to spend your Wednesday evening with us. We have a great speaker today. Long Hae has like over a decade of experience in the data industry, and I think it's going to be a talk that's relevant to all of us. I mean, I've done data science interviews that were very scary, and I know probably a lot of you have as well, and we'll probably keep doing it. That's the nature of the career. So I don't know if you want to say a few words about yourself, and we can get started. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Do you want to kick it off and just tell everyone a little bit more about kind of your career, how you got here, and then we can dive into your deck, and then we'll save time for questions at the end.
Yeah, actually, I was about to show my screen here because I do have that in my presentation.
Oh, perfect. Let's get started.
Beautiful. Let's dive into it.
There we go.
Perfect.
Present. All right. You can see the screen, right? It's a full screen deck. Nice. So, I mean, first things first, it's such an honor to be invited to give a presentation here. I mean, thank you, Aaron, for inviting me. I think, after our initial contact, I was thinking, how I can, tell people something about data science interviews. And then, I've been in the space for, quite a few years, as you can see, in a later slide. I would say data science is now, a pretty wide area right now. It's no longer just, building predictive models. It's no longer just, saying, hey, I'm, fine tuning my model. That used to be my precision. Now my precision is, X% more, stuff like that. So in order to step into this field, I think there's a lot of preparation that everyone's doing. I would say, no one's an expert in the full space of data science anymore because it's becoming so prevalent, it's becoming so important, it's becoming so large. So I would say let's crack data science by first cracking a job interview, right? You need to get your feet in the door first. So that's how I think I'm going to get started by actually showing you my experience. So a little bit about myself, my educational background, as you can see here, I was a trained mathematician, applied mathematician, if you will. I got my PhD in industrial engineering. I mean, don't judge. I mean, don't ask me why I ended up in getting a degree in engineering, because that's how they allocate the professors, right? I was an applied mathematician. My advisor happened to be in the engineering department. But anyway, my thesis was totally around numerical analysis, numerical optimization, how you speed up algorithms to get faster convergence or stuff like that. So I spent quite a few years in theories, and then I spent quite a few years in coding up my algorithm and showing people, hey, you have an optimization problem, I can solve it. I can solve it faster. Fewer number of iterations, more accuracy. So that's what I did for a good chunk of my life in school. After that, I started working in various places. I mean, that's a pretty wide list of places, as you can see. You may even recognize some names over there. I started actually with a trading company, and then slowly transitioned to financial services, and then to e-commerce, and then a few technology companies. I mean, CCC is actually insurance technology. Spot Hero is mobility technology. And then Photomath, my current job, is actually education technology. And then if you read my titles, it's about analytics. It's about data science. It's about data. That is actually very true. Whatever my title was in the past, whichever company I was working in, all I did was actually a data-driven, data-focused, analytics-focused role. So initially, I was almost purely in analytics, and then I even had a couple of places where I had advanced analytics in my title. And We were called AA at the time. So we were AA, but stay calm. We were most of the time sober, and then later on, I picked up data science in different roles, and then I grew into where I am right now. So my current responsibility is not just analytics. It's not just about data science. I also have data engineering in my umbrella, for good or bad reasons. So I think I'm still, having a lot of things to learn on a day-to-day basis. But that should be the common theme for everyone in the data world. Like there's something new to learn every single day. If that also applies to you, you're definitely on the right track. So that's pretty much who I am. And getting into the real business, I think I wanted to actually flow like this. I am going to start with talking about a few roles in the data world. I mean, it shouldn't be new terminologies for anyone here in this conversation. Those are the main roles. And then I'm going to give you some real life interview example, right? It's real life example, not just because it was a project in real life that I was personally working on. It was also a real interview question that I give to my candidates when I'm when I'm hiring for analysts or data science. So hopefully that's going to also give you some insights in terms of what type of a person I am, how I give questions to interviewees, and then how I'm expecting some answer to show my way. And then maybe in the later stage, I'm going to talk about a little on how you should steer your career as a data professional. I mean, you may call yourself a data analyst, you may call yourself a data scientist, whatever it is, it's a data professional's career, and how you actually steer that career. I wanted to give you some thoughts that I have. Don't call them advices, because I don't think they are. But hopefully it brings some thoughts to you. Let's kick it off by saying, how many roles have you ever heard of in the data world, right? What are their general functionalities? What are their titles? How do they differ from each other? And what languages are they actually fluent in? What do they type in on a daily basis? Those are probably the questions you have in my mind, and then I'm pretty sure a lot of people are all having the same question. Let's start with the fundamentals. Data engineer, I mean, what do data engineers do? They are engineers in the first place. So they build stuff. They build tools, they build pipelines, they move data from one place to another, right? They migrate data from one system to another. They support other data people, and they support other non-data people in an organization about data access, data format. If other people need data, they either build something for them, or they say, I will pull some data and just show a CSV file that you can use, right? Data engineers, they build pipelines. So before they build tables, they will have to spend time architecting stuff. They will have to design the table structure, how tables are linked with each other. They write things such as ETL, ELT, whatever those mean to you. Those are actually jobs that can actually do the data moving from one place to another. In terms of technology, they write Python, they write Java, they write Spark. I mean, now there's like a lot more tools out there. They have better tools nowadays than even 5 or 6 years ago, right? The tool space is also developing really fast. In general terms, there's AWS, there's Google Cloud, there's Microsoft Cloud, there's IBM Cloud, there's Snowflake. Let's not forget about the big IPO a couple of years ago. So all of these tools that they are dealing with every day, and then all they do is they move data around. I mean, keep that in mind. Data engineers, they prepare data for other people. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's very important for this role to exist, right? no other data people can work without data engineers' help. So, I mean, the flow chart on the right, don't read too much into it. It's just a picture I copied online. But the gist of it is, those are the people who's making data run from one place to another, so people have access to it and people can use it. Data analyst is a different, sort of very vague word, right? What do they do? In short, I think data analysts, they answer business questions. So what they do is they actually get questions from you name who, right? It could be the marketing team, it could be the product team, it could be the financial team, it could be the C-suite, it could be whoever in this company that has a data need, and then they go to data analysts and say, oh, can I get a report of this? Can I get a visualization of that? Can I get a dashboard that shows this chart or stuff like that? I want to prepare a deck to show to the board, and then I need some numbers, I need some charts here. So data analysts are actually the people behind the scene helping those people do these sort of reporting, visualization, dashboarding, you name it. Again, the goal is to answer direct or indirect questions from people. How, right? As a data analyst, the chart doesn't come out magically on its own. You have to, write queries, SQL or whatever, to aggregate data, to summarize data, to show the trend, and then to represent the data in a certain way. Also, ideally, you can tell a story about the data. So by showing a dashboard, a visualization, or whatever, that's your job. In some places, data analyst is even more segregated into different areas. We have heard of product analysts, marketing analysts, business analysts. I mean, those are all under the general umbrella of data analysts, but it's just answering specific business questions in a specific part of the business. So I think data analyst is just a big terminology for those people. What are data scientists, though? Data scientists, to me, those were like people who are looking at the data in a slightly different way. Their job is to discover the pattern behind the data, or even predict stuff that could happen even before it shows a sign to happen. So for you, your job is to discover the unobvious patterns from vast amount of data, gain some more insights to the business, and then hopefully you can also advise the business to do something that they haven't even thought about. Analyzing the situation, building predictive models, writing Python code, R code, SQL code. There's a lot of tools for you to learn as well. And then in terms of like the domain knowledge, you could have statistical modeling, you could have machine learning, you could have deep learning. AI is another abused word in recent years. Those are actually the weapons for data scientists. Some people may say, hey, I'm a data scientist. Is my job purely building models and show an equation to other people? Well, first things first, not all models can be represented by an equation. Even if you build a model using an equation, I mean, that's sometimes not the end of your job. I mean, you may or may not be tasked with the job to actually deploy your model into a system, a software system, a production system, whatever it is. So depending on the scope of the project and the scope of your role, it could vary from one role to another. So we talked about the engineers, the analysts, and the scientists. So I call them the main roles, and then of course there are overlaps. There's overlap areas. In those gray areas, you could have way more terminologies than what I have listed. Data architects, what are they, right? They are the people who are designing the databases. We have BI developers, we have BI analysts, we have machine learning engineers, right? When you compose all of those terminologies together, you can somehow more or less, somehow guess what it actually means. And of course, for each different job, when you see a job posting, you need to look into it. You need to read between the lines. And also you need to confirm with, either the recruiter or the human resource people, whoever you're talking to, make sure that you understand the scope and then the content of the role. So one thing that I would like to point out, there's no clear lines in like separating these roles from one another. And there are other roles. We have seen this already. I listed quite a few terminologies to scare you. But I think the general sense is data is one world. There's no way you can stay only in one corner of data for the rest of your life. So there's always opportunities for you to step out, to learn something new, to do something new, to collaborate with someone new. Some arguments. Some people may make arguments from time to time about, hey, I think those are exactly the separation of the roles in the data world, right? Look at the upper picture. Data analysts, data engineers, data scientists, right? Long just said that. But I made myself clear. Those are not the only roles out there. Also, don't get fooled by the picture on the top, because number one, the outfits are definitely wrong. Those are not what we wear in the workplace. And number two, I mean, in the picture, like in the lower part of the picture, a lot of things are wrong. Even it's a published website, it's a published picture. Ask yourself, is that all right? Is that all correct? Right? Data scientists are also known as data managers. Well, I don't know if that's true. Their skills are SQL, Python, and R. I don't know if that's the only thing that they do. Data engineers, they are known as database administrators. Well, give me a break. That's not true at all. So I think when you have, run into a job title, make sure you read the description in a very careful way, and then you confirm with people who have the insider knowledge about what their role is actually about. Take that seriously. So that's about sort of like the rough roles that I'm having, that I'm picturing in the first place. And then how about a example, right? We are talking about people who are trying to get into the data scientist or data analyst world. I mean, you may run into a situation where you say, hey, my dream is to be a data scientist, but I don't have real working experience. Maybe you are a fresh graduate. Maybe you are still in school and planning your career, right? What does interviewers ask? What do interviewers ask me, right? What do they hide behind those questions? What are some of the real questions that they wanted to know, but they didn't ask in a very straightforward way? So I'll give you an example to do that, to take a peek, look at what's behind the interview questions. And then also, this example is very likely what your real life would be if you join a company, right? It's not just a made-up question from a interview perspective. It could very likely be your real project in a real job. So we'll talk about that, and you will immediately know what I mean by saying that. Here's the question. I mean, suppose you are working for a e-commerce company. Well, put yourself in the shoes of a candidate. Suppose you are interviewing for a data science role in my team, and then I'm telling you, hey, Tom, imagine yourself working for a e-commerce company. We sell some products online, and then the CMO comes to you someday and say, Tom, we are planning on doing some TV advertisement, and I have no idea, how we should do that. I just have a notion, right? I wanted to do TV advertisement because we haven't done that in the past. How should we do it? Then, after asking that question, Tom, I will sit back and I will start watching you with a grin on my face. Why am I doing so? Because I know I've given you a very generic question. I know I'm giving you, a 2,000-mile view of, a very concrete question. So what am I waiting for? I'm waiting for you to ask me questions to clarify things. I mean, without me telling you, you probably will have the same idea. So you start to ask me questions, and then little by little, I will tell you, this is what I really want, and then this is what I really mean. And then I may even mislead you a little bit, and then I say, what do you think, right? I'm encouraging you to give me your thoughts. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I do that purposely. I'm trying to get into the situation where you are actually, grilled a little bit on the fire and see if you can handle that pressure, can handle all of those vague questions. Let's say you're done with that. Suppose you are done with scratching your head and then asking me a lot of questions, and little by little you correct the corrected the problem, and then this is all the background information that you need to know. Okay, let's assume this is the first time that this company is doing TV advertisement in its history. Okay, all the prior advertisements were actually online, digital, on Google, SEM, SEO. You do a lot of advertisement, but this is the first time they are doing this advertisement on TV. Okay, just to keep things simple, we don't give coupon codes in TV. Okay, and unfortunately, because this is the first time we do TV, we can't really afford national TV. We can only do spot, citywide TV advertisement. Let's say, looking at all the big cities in the United States, these are only the major cities. There are, smaller cities as well that has that have a TV station. So let's assume that we have money to do TV advertisement in 10 of these cities. Okay, if it's successful, we're going to scale it up. But first round, 10. All right, my main concern, what's my success criteria? My main concern is revenue. Of course, by doing TV advertisement, I want to generate more revenue for the company. And secondarily, I want to say something about, the contribution of TV advertising. I would like to say something like, during the past X weeks or X months, TV is actually bringing a incremental X% of my whole period's revenue. I would want to say something like that. How? Right? So that's actually asking you two questions if you really deeply understand this situation. Number one, how do I select the cities? Number two, how do I find a way to calculate the incremental effect of TV advertisement? Again, if you ask these questions, you get all the background information that I listed in the slide, and then now in your head, you start to form your answer. Well, first, you need to think out loud. You need to test the water and say what I'm thinking is A, B, C. You throw out some sentences first. That I, as the hiring manager, I don't care. It's your thinking process. I may find candidates that are getting the hang of a real project faster than other people. But don't get frustrated if you take like 3 or 4 minutes to actually form your ideas or form your language to answer this question. I mean, I don't really care about those 3 or 4 minutes. It may be vital to you. I mean, think about how much time you have in an interview session, but a little time thinking is exactly what I, as a hiring manager, expected. here's one more piece of information, right? I'm not sure what data elements you need. I'm not sure what data elements are even available. So you got to tell me, Mr. Data Science candidate, you got to tell me what you want. Okay, so let's say you get to know all of that. How do you answer this question? First, what data elements do you need, right? This is almost your shopping list, right? I mean, without knowing too much about the e-commerce business, without too much knowledge about the specific company that you're interviewing for, this is almost your dream list. This is your opportunity to showcase, hey, Mr. Hiring Manager, I know all of those things that are potentially useful for my analysis. So look how thorough my thoughts are, how wide my vision is. So this is actually a good opportunity to showcase your vision, to showcase you're smart. So I guess you could say, hey, I need demographics data, I need economics data, I need TV penetration, I need the historical data about the website itself, you name it. Right? In this one, I'm not actually caring too much about what specific field you tell me. I'm actually focusing on how smart you are, how wide your eyesight is, and how jumpy your thoughts are. Maybe even it's the case like the more jumpy your thoughts are, the happier I am, because you can quickly think outside the box. That's indicating that you're a smart person, right? So in this one, there obviously is no correct answer. I'm just trying to see if you can connect reality with a real project. So once that is done, how do you answer the questions, right? You have your shopping list, and then after you get all of the things you just named, right? Demographics information, economic information, historical site information. Suppose I give you all of that information. What are you going to do? How do I pick the cities? How do I calculate the incremental effect of TV, right? This is one way to answer the city selection. I'm not saying this is the best way. This is Long's way to answer that question, right? There's probably other ways to answer this question. If you have a better way, I mean, kudos to you, or congratulations. You'll probably, give a more positive impression to your hiring manager. But this is how I would answer that question. Again, don't take that literally. It's just my thoughts. Okay. Given that, set of data elements that I asked for, I'm going to do cluster analysis. Cluster the cities using all of those data elements, and then suppose you have, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, however many clusters you have. I'm going to take one city out of each cluster, and I call it the TV city. And then suppose I have more than 10 clusters, then I'll just pick the big clusters, right? There's no definitely right or wrong answer. And then I'm going to do TV advertisement only in those 10 selected cities. Remember, each city is coming from one specific cluster. Why am I doing so? Because I'm trying to create this pseudo test control environment. So I'm going to view the rest of the cluster as control cities, because I'm not doing any TV advertisement in it. The only TV advertisement is in the city that I randomly pick in each cluster. The clusters are calculated, but within each cluster, one city was randomly picked. Okay, because it's a good representative of that cluster. Why could this work? Well, yeah, as I said, I created this pseudo control experiment environment, right? And then I'm also considering that I don't want to, throw out my TV advertisement only in one type of city. By this way, I could cover, different types of cities. So that's probably what the business wants to know as well. And by the way, it also helps answer my second question, right? How much incremental effect are you seeing that the TV advertisements are bringing? Well, I can, within each cluster, I can compare the experiment group with the control group, and then I can calculate the percentage of revenue change because there's no seasonality, right? The test cities and then the control cities, they are actually being observed during the same time period. Again, this is one way to answer the question, but if you read through this page, what did I cover? I covered cluster analysis. I covered this test control like experiment, A/B experiment situation. I also covered, my thoughts around seasonality and stuff like that. So, by answering 2 questions, I actually showed off my understanding of the data and my understanding of data science knowledge from various angles. What is a hiring manager looking for? He's actually looking for a good way to think into the problem. He's looking into finding a good problem solver. And by doing so, I just showed, hey, I'm a problem solver. Am I good enough? Well, it's not my judgment. It's your hiring manager's judgment, but I showed that I can solve a problem, right? You didn't tell me how I would do it. I'm suggesting these ways to solve a problem for you. There's obviously other ways to solve this problem. Take it back home and think about how you would answer that question. Okay, now what's behind the scenes? What does Long look for in all the candidates when he asks those questions? Well, I guess we should maybe start from the right this time, right? I'm trying to answer these questions by observing how you answer my questions. Does this candidate have necessary technical skills? Right? Do you know how to calculate percentages? Do you know, how to use the data elements that you asked for? Are you using it in a good way, in a technical way to actually answer a question from the marketing department, right? Who may or may not be, data experts. So I'm looking for that, for the least. And then, does this candidate care about the role? Why am I asking so? Because if a candidate starts to answer my question without asking those clarification questions, then, I would take it for granted that this candidate wants to show off his skills too much. He even doesn't care about, what context his skills will be applied to, right? If you don't clarify, then I would say, you are jumping to conclusion too fast, and then you may or may not be the person I want. Because I want a person who's methodical and who's put it this way, who's careful in choosing an approach based on the situation. Okay, is the candidate willing or able to learn? Well, in this situation, what am I expecting you to learn? Learn about the business, right? Learn about the real situation. Why are you doing so? Have you done this before? What do you care? What do you not care? I think that's what I can observe from a candidate. Are you willing to learn, or are you able to learn? Can you carry the knowledge that you just learned into your answer? I think that's what I'm looking for. Can this candidate communicate, right? You have some thoughts in your mind. Can you explain your methodology to me? And then can you make me understand your methodology, right? I may even pause you in the middle and say, do you actually mean A, B, C? Or, can you elaborate on a certain point? How are you, going to do X, Y, Z? That's a way that I can, tell if this candidate can really communicate. I mean, understanding me is one situation. Making yourself understood is another situation. Can you do both? How does this candidate deal with disagreement? I mean, from time to time, I will intentionally say something like, I don't agree. Or actually, I think you're on the wrong path because I believe ABC, right? I may give you a real reason, or I may give you a wrong reason from an outsider's perspective. I want to see how you're dealing with stress, how you're dealing with disagreement in the workplace. Right? Can you actually take disagreement and then try to find the reason for disagreement, and then try to explain yourself into either I believe in your theory, so I mean, you convince me to do something, or you can say, hey, there is actually no disagreement, it's just misunderstanding. So whatever it is, can you actually deal with that situation? There's definitely more that I'm looking for, but these 5 are probably the most important factors that I'm looking for when someone's answering my questions. Again, call it traps that I set up for you, call it like intentional misleading you into a loophole or whatever. That's how I would do my interview. All right, don't generalize. Not every data science manager is hiring in exactly the same way, but that's how long does his interview. Okay. What's next? So I think we're quickly going into the third part of the presentation, your career as a data professional. It's still related to the situation we just talked to, but we just gave you an example what your real life could be after you accept a data scientist offer for a certain company. But if you're still young in your career, how do you steer your own professional growth? How do I get my feet even in the door, right? We saw how to answer some business questions. Those are just examples. But how do I get into the door and and put one foot in front of another and start walking? Later on, you'll figure out how to run. So this is actually my turn to ask you a question. What is the image of data scientists, real life data scientists, in your head? Well, you start to put on the imaginary head, and then you have some pictures in your head. It may look like this, right? That guy, he's not as handsome as me, but I think you get the hang of it. It could be even cooler, right? More modern technology. You have something you can write on, like the what you see on TV. You may have some advanced tools out there, but it could be an image in your head as well. But what's the real image? Go visit a company, you could see data scientists like this. Oh, by the way, those are actually taken on good days. On a bad day, you actually see data scientists like that. So actually, what I'm trying to say is data scientist is one way to make contribution to a company. They are just one part of the machine, and then the real world may not be as clean or beautiful as you originally thought. There's a lot of problems. Let's name a few. There could be problems with the problem. What do I mean by that? You are solving problems in your job, but who says that those problems that you're going to be solving are perfectly defined? No one. There could be a lot of problems with the problems you're given, right? Sometimes you're given vague or ill-defined questions. Sometimes you have very limited contextual information. That's the importance of asking those clarification questions. Sometimes, just to the opposite, problems are defined for you. Someone came up with a question and say, hey, just so I can make your life easier, I think you can just help me by doing ABC. So someone prescribed what you're going to do. Is that a good situation? I mean, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. That's the problem with the problem itself. Sometimes there are problems with the data. When you understand the problem, you start to crank your data, you start to work on your data. Sometimes you figure, oh, there's problem with the data, right? There's sometimes very limited data, not enough data. Or sometimes real world data is very messy. It's very dirty. There's a lot of things that you're not supposed to see in the data, or it's counterintuitive in the data. You don't need me to tell you that because you are all in the data field already. And more importantly, there's sometimes problems with people. Are your stakeholders with you, right? Can you actually have your stakeholders on your side? When you explain something, do they really understand, right? When you need your stakeholders to actually make a case for you in front of other people, can they do that? Are they willing to do that? So that's actually a problem with people. And sometimes, well, it happens all the time, not just sometimes. You have changing requirements. One day, stakeholders thinks about A. Next day, it's A prime. The third day, it's A double prime. Fourth day, it's the opposite of A. So, I mean, I guess stakeholders changing their minds, that's not new story for anyone here. So what does the real world look like, right? Look at the hamburger on the advertisement or on TV. Look at the hamburger in the bag, in the takeout bag you're getting. Look at the picture that the artist is showing in his studio, and look at your kid's birthday picture. So there's a big gap between the real world and what you think the real world is. So for young professionals who is interested in the data world, or if you are already early in your real world, you can understand this better. Don't imagine you are in Wonderland. Okay? But let's be optimistic here. I mean, not everything is so bad. As a data professional, you should seek the right problem to solve. Okay, what do I mean by that? You are right. People are looking for problem solvers. But I would say if a data science manager or data analyst manager is smart enough, he should first seek the problem definer. He should seek someone who can define the problem before he solves the problem. So actually, you as a data professional has some leeway to define your own problem to solve, right? Leave enough time for your data exploration to get familiarized with your data, to get acquainted with your questions, and never take anything for granted, right? Don't assume your control group is going to be, automatically better or worse than your experiment group. Don't even assume anything. Does the data actually say that? Well, confirm with your data. Always ask why, how, what if, right? I mean, ask yourself and the stakeholders, right? Why are you doing so? How are you going to use the result? What if I do this for you? How are you going to use it, right? Ask those questions all the time and never stop. When you do have that luxury, recommend the right problem to solve to your stakeholders. Don't be shy to say, I don't think you're asking the right question, or you ask me to do A, B, C. I don't think that's the right thing for me to do. Let me do something else for you, right? Recommend the right problem to solve, not because you can solve it, but because it's the right one to solve. I'm having these two pictures here. So actually, again, my turn to ask question. Do you want to be a cook or a chef? Well, that's my bad analogy that I used for a very, very long time. But I think cooks are people who work in the back of the kitchen, having a lot of these orders pasted on their glass, and then if customers want chicken, you fry chicken. If customers want vegetable, you give them salad, right? You do exactly what they order, right? But is that the right thing to do, or do you want to be that person? Don't get me wrong. Some person like to do that, and by all means, if that's what you like to do, good for you. However, I myself, I don't just want to be a cook. I want to be a cook, but I also want to be a chef, right? Can I recommend something for you, right? Today's special is this, or based on what you're telling me today, I think you probably want to enjoy this dinner, right? Recommend something for your stakeholders, and don't be just the guy taking orders behind your screen. Philosophically speaking, I mean, I'm never a philosopher, but philosophically, I can still say something. Data analysts are not just analysts. Data scientists are not just scientists, because you need to be cross areas, right? You need to know more areas of the data. Don't hide in that corner. They should all be consultants, right? Ask those questions, ask why, and be open-minded. Help people understand what they want, because not everyone understands what they want. Help them and make it happen, of course, with data. That's what you do. Do not get locked with one solution, right? Come up with proposals, alternatives to start from, and run it by your stakeholders and see which one might work the best. Think ahead and act at a high level, then just execute and taking orders. We already covered that. Be the chef. Consulting skills. It's always something that you can rely on, no matter what your title is, no matter what your business is. I would like to close this discussion by saying a few things. So the use of analytics and data science, it's the new industry normal, right? If you go into a company that doesn't do any analytics or any data science, well, look somewhere else, right? It's not your place. Challenges exist together with opportunities. Yes, problems are there, but looking at it with a optimistic lens, you can see opportunities behind those challenges, right? How do you make people aware? How do you make people accept your data point of view? What technologies, are there talents out there? I mean, all of these things are coming together to people's table if they are building a data team, and then it is all questions that they need to answer. Last but not least, the long journey has just started. The data journey for you may just started, and then the future may come sooner than you thought. Okay, when I read this, I don't know the picture in your head, but I have this guy in my head. It looks so much like a tagline in the Terminator movie. But joke aside, thank you so much for spending this time with me. And again, thank you, Aaron, for inviting me. I know I may have told you something you already know, but if you can even get one thing or two from just a 1 hour of talking that I just did, I will be happy. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Long. This is really a lot of great practical knowledge. I mean, I really resonate with the problem type thing, because that's what I'm doing day to day now, is solving the problems with the problem. But and yeah, I see we already have some great questions in here, but feel free to drop any questions if you have any. And yeah, let me see. Okay, so we got one on how would you compare the interview process between stepping into your first data job versus transitioning to another one? Do you have any tips on that?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I think you froze on me for like about 10 seconds.
Oh no, sorry about that. Okay, but how would you compare like the interview process for first breaking into data versus like transitioning, let's say, from like an analyst to a data scientist role?
I mean, it's sort of like to me, a experience, a difference of level of experience. I mean, if you are transitioning, then I would actually assume that you may carry some old knowledge with you when you are making that transition, whether it's a role transition within the same company, or your transition from one company to another. I think I welcome that you can bring some knowledge to the table by by taking this interview. But if you are just like trying to get in the door, like you're a fresh graduate or something like that, I would be probably a little bit more tolerant with some things that you say, which I know is not going to work. So I mean, I'm not saying I have all the right answers in the world, but I know something might not work better than some fresh graduates. So that said, I've seen different personalities, right? People who transition may have more hands-on experience working on one thing or another, but the downside is they may be more locked in some custom way of thinking. Well, a fresh graduate may or may not have so much years looking at real world, but they may be more open-minded, and then they're willing to accept the situation a little bit faster. So I would say, as a hiring manager myself, I would like to keep open-minded, and I welcome all sorts of candidates.
Yeah, that's great. It makes sense. And Sarnika was asking about in the interviews, is it mostly a lot of case studies, or when you interview people, do you also ask like data structures and algorithm questions? Yeah, and how do you kind of divide that time up?
I personally don't make people code in front of me. I mean, I like to see how they think instead of how they solve a problem, right?
Mm.
I mean, don't laugh at me. I still need I still need Google to code with me, right? I can't remember all the right syntax. Should I add a parenthesis here or not? Should I add a semicolon here or not? I mean, I still need to remind myself from time to time. Sometimes that semicolon does matter, but I mean, especially when we're in the remote world, coding interview, I don't want to do that. Right? I may give you a take-home exam, but in the real face-to-face conversation, I'd rather say how you approach a problem. What's your methodology? How do you do your ideation instead of write the perfect code that I can type in and compile and run? That's I already failed that. I myself would fail that interview myself. So good luck.
I agree. Nothing scarier than live coding without access to Stack Overflow. Nightmare.
Whiteboard coding. I mean, write code on the whiteboard.
Yeah. Frightening. But yeah, we got an interesting question from Brenda, who's asking, because you mentioned earlier that you think that AI is like an abused word in data science. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Why do you think it's overused maybe, or?
It's abused. So AI, I mean, I don't know if this is the right thing to say. So they say AI was like teenager sex. so everyone's talking about it and no one knows how to do it, and then everyone's saying they're doing it because they are afraid everyone else is doing it. So I mean, it's exactly what it is. I mean, AI, artificial intelligence, is not clearly defined. It's not like a definition in your math textbook. So is predictive modeling AI? I don't know. Is computer vision AI? Is NLP AI? Is neural network AI? I mean, as long as it solves my problem, I don't care if you call it AI or BI or CI, whatever, right? Call it anything you want, but I want my problem solved. So AI is a abused word to me. And then again, I would say if you want to work in AI, better sharpen yourself in terms of what you can do, and then make sure that you also learn along the way and make people convinced that you can do all of the above and embrace AI, whatever that means.
Makes sense. Yeah, how I like to think of it is like AI is like a tool, not the solution, And I've also heard there's like a lot of better solutions oftentimes versus just like jumping to a complex machine learning algorithm. But yeah, we have a lot of questions in the chat, so I'll take a few more before we have to sign off. But Nilam is asking, what skills should one start cultivating to be a fast learner and kind of survive in the fast-paced industry?
Here's what I'm thinking. If you chase everything and you want to get everything, you'll probably get nothing. So, I mean, don't be greedy, right? Start from what you can do and advance yourself, build yourself upon what you already can do, what you already know. But don't be greedy and say, "Hey, what's the new buzzword in the street? I'm going to chase that." Well, yeah, I mean, good luck. With the right keyword, you may survive for 2 more months, and then it will be dominated by another keyword, right? So I mean, let's not talk about Facebook changing its name. That thing is the new buzzword, and then Google will come up with 20 different ones in no time, just to laugh at Facebook. So I don't think it's going to. It's a good strategy to say I'm going to learn the latest, but let's learn the most useful. That's probably my suggestion to everyone.
Makes
No, that
sense.
makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's so many buzzwords out there. We all want to chase them. I mean, I remember I talked to someone at, we'll say a Midsized US bank, and basically it was one of their I don't know how senior he was, but he had a fancy title. And he was basically like, we don't need ML. I guarantee you a lot of these other people, or AI, I forget which one he used, but basically it's like, I don't need this. And I am a bank with $50 billion in assets, guarantee you that some of these other companies that are throwing it out there, you probably don't need it as well. But one question I saw in the chat, it may have gotten lost a little bit in the shuffle. Someone was asking, someone is a data analyst, and they wanted to understand like what gap should they be filling in if they want to apply for data science roles and make that transition.
From data analyst to data science. So I think fundamentally, it is going to be a change in the way you look. So again, call me biased, but data analysts, what they do most of their time, I'm not saying that's all they do, but most of their time, data analysts look back into the history and say, what has happened? Why did something happen? Let's figure out, why am I seeing this trend, right? Data scientists, on the flip side, look forward. So they say, let me try to predict something that didn't even have shown any signage to happen. So I guess, obviously, machine learning, not just SQL, you got to build models, you got to fine tune your model, you got to, learn new modeling techniques, or how to, improve the quality of your model. You got to learn all that, and it's never a small gap, to be honest with you, right? So if you spend, quite a few years building dashboards, you have a good start, but I think, being able to model is obviously the biggest gap over there.
That makes sense. Well, thank you so much for your time and everyone who joined us today. This has been great. I took a lot away. I know a lot of you did also. And we'll have this stream up on YouTube, so feel free to go watch it there and review. And also like our page and keep an eye out for our future events. We do this weekly. We have a lot of great speakers coming up, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us all today. And this has been great. Thank you, Long, for speaking to us. And
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. I wish everyone the best. Thank you.
Thank you.